Hello everybody, this is Refresh, and I am here to pit these two Zendikar Rising Seal decks up against the Defeated God Challenge deck from Journey into Nyx. On the left we have a Simic deck, and on the right we have an Izzet deck. Links to the buildings of these decks, as well as other games that were played with these decks, are available in the description box below. For this, we'll be using 3 hero cards. We have the Harvester, which says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. The Explorer, which says you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and the Vanquisher, which says your starting hand size is increased by 1, your maximum hand size is increased by 1. We'll be playing 2 games, first on normal difficulty with 3 Rollicking Throngs, and then we'll play on hard mode, and we'll get started by drawing our opening hands. Simic draws a Snarecaster, Taunting Arbormage, Living Tempest, Vine Gecko, Forest, Turn Timber Ascetic, Field Research, and Riverglad Pathway. There aren't a lot of lands here, but I think we can cast one thing, so we keep it. Izzet draws an Island, Expedition Diviner, Crawling Barrens, Risen Riptide, Glacial Grasp, Skyclave Plunder, Grotag Bugcatcher, and Mountain. Like with Simic, we're a little short on lands, but I think we're still going to keep it anyways, because we can still cast stuff. So we'll go ahead and get started. Izzet will play the Island and the Mountain. We'll tap both and we'll cast the Grotag Bugcatcher. So 1/2 Goblin Warrior with Trample. When it attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each creature in your party. And then over here we'll play the Riverglad Pathway. This is a land, it taps for blue, and we'll also play the Forest over here. And we'll tap them both to cast the Vine Gecko. This is a 2/2 Elemental Lizard, and the first kick spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast. We also forgot to draw for our opening hands because it's multiplayer, and so Simic should have an Island, and Izzet should also have a Risen Riptide. And then we will pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is a Rollicking Throng. It's a 1/3 Human Reveler, and when it enters the battlefield, reveal the top card of Xenagos' library, and Xenagos casts that card. We're going to get a Ecstatic Piper, a 2/2 Satyr Reveler. When it enters the battlefield, Xenagos Ascendant attacks this turn if able, and then when it leaves the battlefield, each player gains 2 life. Finally, we have a Impulsive Charge. At the beginning of combat this turn, all Revelers gain haste until end of turn and attack this combat if able. So everybody's attacking this turn. This is a pretty rough spot. We're going to double block one of the Rollicking Throngs to get rid of it, but we're going to take 11 damage to go to 9. Then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Might of Marasa, and we will discard the Field Research. Izzet draws a Spikefield Hazard, and we will discard one of the Risen Riptides. We'll untap. Simic draws a Forest. Izzet draws a Molten Blast. Izzet will play the backside of Spikefield Hazard. This is a Spikefield Cave. It enters the battlefield tap. You can tap it for red. We'll also play a Crawling Barrens over here. This is a land. It can tap for a colorless. Pay 4 and put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and then you may have it become a 0/0 elemental until end of turn. It's still a land. Simic will play the Island and the Forest over here. We'll go to combat and we'll swing the Gecko and the Bugcatcher into one of the Rollicking Throngs to defeat it. And then we'll tap 3 mana over here to cast the Snarecaster. It's a 1/4 Elf Rogue with Reach. And then we'll pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos untaps. And we'll cast the top 2 cards. The first one is Impulsive Destruction. Each player may sacrifice an artifact or enchantment. It deals 3 damage to each player who didn't sacrifice a permanent this way. We don't have the option, so we'll lose 6 life to go down to 3. And then we have a Impulsive Return. Return 2 cards in a Ecstatic Piper from Xenagos' graveyard to the battlefield at the beginning of the combat this turn. It deals damage to each player equal to the number of Revelers on the battlefield. We are going to spend 3 mana and cast Molten Blast. This is a instant. It says choose one. It deals 2 damage to target creature or player, or destroy target artifact. We'll choose to defeat the Ecstatic Piper. We'll gain 4 life from its death, taking us up to 7. And then at the beginning of combat, we are going to take 4 damage from the 2 Rollicking Throngs, going down to 3 again. We're just barely surviving here. We'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Seafloor Stalker, and we will discard the Taunting Arbormage. is it draws a Field Research, and we will discard the Glacial Grasp. We'll untap. Simic draws a Forest, is it draws a Glacial Grasp. Simic will play the Forest, is it will tap out and cast the Expedition Diviner. This is a 3/2 Merfolk Wizard with Flying, and as long as you control another wizard, it has, when this creature dies, draw a card. And then Simic will tap out and will cast the Turn Timber Ascetic. This is a 5/4 Giant Cleric. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life, taking us up to 6. We'll go to combat and swing the Bugcatcher, which becomes a 3/2 thanks to the Diviner, as well as these two into the 2 Rollicking Throngs to defeat them. And then we'll pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is an Ecstatic Piper, and the second one is an Ecstatic Piper. Xenagos is coming in at us, and we will have to chump. We will chump with the Expedition Diviner. The Expedition Diviner dies, and then at the end of the turn we'll use the Harvester. Simic will draw a Bubble Snare, and we will discard the Might of Marasa. It will draw an island, and we will discard the Glacial Grasp. We'll untap. Simic draws a Thieving Skydiver, and it draws a mountain. We'll play a mountain over here and an island over here. And then we will go to combat. We'll attack both of the Ecstatic Pipers with these two, trading the Grotag Bugcatcher, defeating these both, getting us 8 life to take us up to 14. And then Simic will tap an island and cast Bubble Snare. This is an enchantment aura with kick or 2 and blue. Enchant creature, when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, tap enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. We'll go ahead and kick it, giving the Vine Gecko a counter. This will make Xenagos unable to untap, and then over here we'll tap 3 mana, and we'll cast the Risen Riptide. This is 0/5 elemental, and whenever you cast a kick spell, it has base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. And then we will pass to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is a Xenagos' Strike. It deals 4 damage to each player. We'll go down to 6, and then we are getting an Impulsive Return. We're returning 2 Ecstatic Pipers. Then we're taking 4 to go down to 2. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a mountain, and we will discard the Thieving Skydiver. It draws a Scorch Rider, and we will discard the Skyclaved Plunder. We'll untap. Simic draws a Forest, and it draws a mountain. We'll play the mountain. We'll play the mountain and the forest. We'll tap 6 mana here and cast a Scorch Rider. This is a 4/3 human warrior with kicker 1 and red. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it gains haste. So we kicked it, it's gaining haste, and we will swing with the Gecko and the Scorch Rider into the 2 Ecstatic Pipers, defeating them, giving us 8 life to take us back up to 10. And then we'll pass to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is a Madden Oread. This is a 4/2 enchantment Nymph Reveler. As long as there are 5 or more Revelers on the battlefield, it attacks each turn if able. When it leaves the battlefield, each player gains 3 life. We also have a Impulsive Charge. So the Oread's going to attack, and we're going to actually block it and trade it with the Turn Timber Ascetic. This will defeat this. We'll gain 6 life to go back up to 16. And then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Rabid Bite, and we will discard the Rabid Bite. We'll also tap 5 mana to cast the Living Tempest, a 3/3 elemental with flash and flying. And then it draws a Shell Shield, and we'll discard the Shell Shield. We'll untap. Simic draws a Lull Mage's Familiar, and it draws a Rock Slide Sorcerer. I think we have this, so we'll go ahead and cast the Field Research over here. This is a sorcery, and it has kicker 2 in blue. Draw 2 cards. If the spell is kicked, draw 3 cards instead. We're going to draw 3 cards. We drew an island, a mountain, and the Sullen Division. But the most important thing is that the Risen Riptide is a 5/5. We're going to swing with the Risen Riptide into Xenagos, defeating Xenagos. And that will give us the win. We will be right back for hard mode. It's time for hard mode. There are 4 rollicking throngs. We'll draw our opening hands. Simic has a field research, living tempest, forest, island, living tempest, island, and vine gecko. It's a keepable hand. It has an island, C4 stalker, shell shield, molten blast, risen riptide, glacial grasp, mountain, and low mage's domination. Not a great hand, but we are going to keep it. Simic draws a cleric of chill depths, and Izzet draws an island. We'll play an island and a mountain over here, and we'll play a forest and an island over here. We'll tap these 2 and cast the vine gecko, and then we'll pass to Xenagos, who will cast the topmost card. This is a Ferrisband Revelers, a 4/4 Centaur Reveler, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player draws a card. We also have a Ecstatic Piper. This will send Xenagos our way. We are not going to block. We'll take 6 and go to 14. Then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Forest, and we will discard the Cleric of Chill Depths. Izzet draws an Expedition Diviner, and we will discard the Lull Mage's Domination. We'll untap. Simic draws a Lull Mage's Familiar, and Izzet draws a Rockslide Sorcerer. Izzet will play the Island, and Simic will play a forest and an island. Simic will then tap 3 mana and cast Lull Mage's Familiar. This is a 2/4 beast with tap, add green or blue, and whenever you cast a kick spell, you gain 2 life. Izzet will tap out and cast a C4 Stalker as a 2/3 Merfolk Rogue with 4 and blue. It gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It can't be blocked this turn. It costs 1 less to activate for each creature in your party. And then we can't really win on combat here, so we are going to pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos untaps and casts the top 2 cards. The first one is an Ecstatic Piper. The second one is a Impulsive Charge. We're going to be attacked by a buttload of creatures here. Alright, well, we're going to block the 2 Ecstatic Pipers with these 2. And that's 14 additional damage coming our way, which we can't allow. So we're going to chump the Xenagos with the Vine Gecko. The Vine Gecko dies. These 2 die. And we will gain 8 life, but we'll lose 8 life. That keeps us exactly where we're at. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Rabid Bite, and we will discard the Field Research. Izzet draws an island, and we will discard the Shell Shield. We'll untap. Simic draws a Thieving Skydiver, and Izzet draws a Risen Riptide. Izzet will play another island. Simic will play the other island, and then Izzet will tap out. We'll cast the Rockslide Sorcerer. This is a 3/3 Human Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery or wizard spell, it deals 1 damage to any target. Then we'll attack one of the Rollicking Throngs with these 2, defeating it. And then we will go to Xenagos' turn. Xenagos untaps and casts an Ecstatic Piper, as well as a Wild Mayonnaise. This is a 3/1 Human Reveler with First Strike, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player gains 3 life. We're being attacked by Xenagos, and I think we just let it hit us, so we'll go down to 8. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a C4 Stalker, and we'll discard the Thieving Skydiver. We'll also tap all 5 of these and cast the Living Tempest. And then Izzet draws an island, and we will discard the Risen Riptide. We'll untap. Simic draws a Lull Mage's Familiar, and Izzet draws a mountain. We'll play the island and the mountain over here. Then we're going to do some damage. We're going to go to combat. We're going to swing the C4 Stalker into the Ecstatic Piper, the Living Tempest into one of the Rollicking Throngs, and the Rockslide Sorcerer into one of the Rollicking Throngs. That will defeat these 3. We'll gain 4 life to go back up to 12. And then we are going to tap 2 mana over here to cast a Rabid Bite. This is a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. We'll have the Tempest bite the Ferrisband Revelers. Then we'll spend 3 mana over here to cast the Molten Blast. We'll finish off the Revelers. This will draw us a card each. Simic draws an island, and Izzet draws a Charax of Raging Isle. And then we are going to cast the C4 Stalker on this side as well. And then we're going to pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos will untap and will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is a Dance of Flame. It's an enchantment. When a Reveler attacks, it deals 1 damage to each player. And we also have a Rip to Pieces. At the beginning of combat this turn, each Reveler deals 1 damage to each player and each creature those players control. And then I forgot the trigger from Rockslide Sorcerer for casting Molten Blast. That trigger will point its damage at the Wild Mayonnaise, so they'll defeat this, giving us 6 more life, taking us up to 18. And then we're going to take 2 damage total, as well as 1 damage to each creature, taking us back down to 16. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Tajuru Snarecaster, and we will discard the Tajuru Snarecaster. Izzet will draw an island, and we will discard the island. We'll untap. Simic draws in Forest, and Izzet draws a Crawling Barrens. We'll play the Crawling Barrens over here. We'll play the Forest and the island over here. We'll go to combat, and we will swing the Living Tempest into the Rollicking Throng to defeat it. We'll spend 3 mana over here, and we will cast another Lull Mage's Familiar. And over here, we'll tap out, cast Charax the Raging Isle. This is 0/17 Legendary Leviathan Crab. Spells your opponent cast at target Charax cost 2 more to cast. And for 3, it gets +X, -X until end of turn, where X is the number of islands you control. We'll also cast a Risen Riptide. And then we will go to Xenagos' turn. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is Xenagos' Thorn. Xenagos gains trample until end of turn and attacks if this turn if able. We also have an Ecstatic Piper. Xenagos is attacking, and we'll just block with Charax. Xenagos will bounce off. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Simic draws a Forest and discards a Forest. Izzet draws a Scorch Rider, and we will discard the Scorch Rider. We'll untap. Simic draws a Forest. Izzet draws a Selindi Vision. I think we have this though. We'll play the Forest over here, and this is how we're going to win. We're going to tap 4 mana and cast the Expedition Diviner. This is 1 damage from the Rockslide Sorcerer at the Ecstatic Piper, and then we'll tap 3 more mana over here. Casting the Glacial Grasp. It's an instant. It says tap target creature. Its controller mills 2 cards. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Draw a card. That's 1 more damage from the Rockslide Sorcerer to the Ecstatic Piper, getting us 4 life to take us up to 20. And then Xenagos is tapped, will not untap during its next turn. Xenagos will mill 2. And then we will go to combat. We're going to swing with the Living Tempest and the Sleepfloor Stalker into Xenagos to defeat Xenagos. And that is it. Let me know what you thought about the games in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.